Today, a treasure trove of Hunter Biden leaks. Elon Musk backs out of his Twitter deal, and even Democrats don't want Biden to run in 2024. We have got all of that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I'm sitting here with two of my friends who you may or may not have seen at Stu Does America's Power Hour on Friday. We were just reliving we're reliving what we could remember of it anyway, that experience. Stu Burgier, host of Stu Does America. Also, Alex Stein, BlazeTV contributor, I Can't Speak, and host of Conspiracy Castle, who...
I remember it all. But
yeah, I was going to say,
I
you were
remember
the only
the
one.
gastrointestinal problems. I wish I could forget. So.
Did you need to call a plumber the next day?
No, but
okay,
I mean,
well,
my
fine.
toilet's fine, but my inside's not so much.
It's not shredded. Anyway, if you guys missed it, you're going to want to go and check it out. It did get a little wild.
Yes.
A little.
Yes.
With this one and Chad, between the two of you guys.
And Stu, the bartender, was not very polite either. I mean, he was pouring shots like we were in Margaritaville. I thought we were in a Jimmy Buffett song.
I poured a shot for Sarah that was closer to a McDonald's 32-ounce extra large soda. I don't know how she lived through it. I'm still recovering.
Why did I take that?
I don't know. It was very, very, I don't know. I think because you had 3 or 4 previous, that one sounded like a good idea, which it was not.
Yeah, I still say... I should have eaten that day. So I want to get into the news of the day here. Obviously, if you frequent social media, what you probably saw that you're not going to hear discussed on CNN or MSNBC is that 4chan users have claimed to have hacked Hunter Biden's iCloud account and just kind of delivered the contents to the people on the internet. So administrators of 4chan obviously moved very quickly to pull down the threads that included materials from this alleged leak. Again, I have to say alleged. And of course, many were really, really upset about that. But there have been some video clips, some purported text message conversations, and some little bit of goodies to go over and unpack. So let me play for you first. One video that has emerged and been circulating all over Twitter is Hunter Biden, who is apparently arguing with a prostitute about how much crack he actually has. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. They're both wrong because apparently he can't read numbers. Watch.
No, I just weighed out the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07.
No, that's 20.7.
Without the bag.
No, you read the point where the point actually is. That's 20.7. He can't even get that right. That is, I've never done crack cocaine. That looks like a lot.
Well, no wonder he's always having so many problems. He thinks he's doing 2.07. He's doing 20.7. Like, that's the problem here.
That is the problem. How has he not died yet?
I don't know.
I'm fascinated with, first of all, how much crack this guy, I guess, uses. But also, why does he feel the need to document his entire life? Which I just discussed this with Chad when I taped with him. I guess Val Kilmer did, but he was not like going around screwing prostitutes and smoking crack. I don't think. This guy is engaging in all of the illegal, illicit activities and seems to think that it's a good idea to record all of it.
It's really amazing, isn't it? He's very, very high all the time. I mean, you can watch StuDoesPowerHour.com. Is where the video is, and you can see Sarah and I, many of the panelists, with the exception of Alex, who's just naturally this way. We all look a little insane that night. We never approach anything close to a typical Tuesday for Hunter Biden, which is really incredible when you think about it. And I feel like there's a part of every guy, a dark part of every guy, that if you made a long sequence of bad decisions, you could find yourself with crack and hookers. Like, there's a path there for guys. Yeah. I can almost understand how bad that's turned out. I don't understand the filming, though. I just, why? He's naked in front of his phone all the time.
All the time.
No guy that I've ever known in my life wants to ever see themselves naked. It's just not a good look. It doesn't work for guys. It's great for women, not great for guys. So, like, I don't understand it. Some of the time he's just by himself. Why would you film yourself? I can't contemplate any of it.
Literally, the one that really gets me the most is he's in a float tank. Yeah. Did you see? He's in the float tank. He decides that the angle of where he's going to record the phone is like in between his legs, where his junk is all over the place, and he's smoking crack, recording himself like smoking crack, and I guess touching himself with the phone, like right here in the float tank. I'm like, just why? Why would you want?
We know why. I think Rick James said it best: cocaine is a hell of a drug. All right. So when you're high on crack, your decision-making skills are they're a little off, to say the least.
Really?
Yeah. And you know, the one thing I will say though is, you guys are being a little rude. Maybe he's trying to do an OnlyFans. It doesn't seem like he's making enough money, so maybe he's trying to get some content for his OnlyFans. But on a serious note, though, I guess the biggest problem about this is, like, we like the content. Why is the mainstream media so silent? Like, they have just a plethora of evidence and not one tweet from a blue check mark exposing this. That's what kind of makes me worried.
Well, and you briefly mentioned this off air before we started, Alex, and that if this was Trump Jr., can you imagine the coverage that we would have seen? And I mean, think about, I don't know if you guys saw this, but when Donald Trump Jr. was going on and, he'd go on interviews on Fox News, wherever, I heard from all of these blue check marks, like, because he was talking fast and he had a wild look in his eyes and he was all sweaty. We knew he was doing cocaine. He's a coke addict. That's what they said about the guy. Now you literally have the president's son with crack cocaine in multiple videos, and they're like, nah. Also, you keep the kids out of it. Oh, okay. Now we keep the kids out of it. That's cute. That's really cute.
Well, and this is the other problem too. It's like everybody has a family member or knows somebody that has a problem with drugs. So it's like you can almost look at this, and the crack smoking is almost Hunter Biden's most redeeming quality when you look at how he sold this out to the Ukraine, how he sold this out to China, how they're selling 1 million barrels of our oil reserves to China that they have, a $1.7 billion investment in. So that is what they're trying to hide, is all the shady business dealings. But they'll give us the crack rocks and the prostitutes to distract us when he's literally selling out our country and destabilizing the middle class.
Yeah,
I think you could make the argument, okay, him and his crazy personal life, maybe it doesn't have any effect. We all know that some of the stuff we've seen is tied to Joe Biden. But even put that aside for a second. Who did this? Who hacked this phone? Could be one of his political enemies. Could be some conservative with some computer skills who was able to pull this together. Could be one of his business enemies or some other enemy he's made in his life. Could be just some bored guy who thought it would be funny. But we just sent $60 billion to Ukraine. Yeah. And the Russians, who are known for their hacking ability, have said, there's a good chance there's going to be retaliation if you guys push this too far. It is totally plausible that the Russian government approved or participated in this hack. All the money we've been sending to Ukraine has potentially compromised the President of the United States and his family. This is not a little story. This is something that should be heavily investigated by all these media sources. You can't ignore this. This is a massive story. It could be the retaliation of a war we just entered. That's how important it could be. Now, it might not be that, but certainly these organizations with all of these resources should be looking into where this hack came from, who did it, is it legitimate? We should know all of these things. And they are just so stuck on ignoring everything that happens to this guy unless he tells it to you in his own book. Then they'll have him on and give him a bunch of softball interviews. They're fine talking about it then. Like, this is unbelievable, especially after they just admitted the first hack was real.
Well, I want to say this on the speculation note. You know, could it be that maybe they're releasing this on purpose because nobody's supporting Joe Biden in the 2024 election?
Yeah,
so they actually
could be an ally. Yeah, it absolutely could. I mean, there's a ton of stories that went on this weekend where it seems like now Democratic operatives are going and to the media and saying, "Hey, you should start talking about how old he is." All of a sudden, we just noticed
the whole narrative has changed.
Okay, so speaking of that, in this dump, which I did say was a treasure trove of just all things you don't want to see and also maybe should know, there's another screenshot that showed a contact this is allegedly, of course, Hunter's phone, saved as Pedo Peter, which is supposed to be Joe Biden. And back in October of 2020, the National Pulse actually reported exclusively that Joe Biden used the pseudonym Peter Henderson, which was a fictional Soviet Union-era spy in a couple Tom Clancy novels who infiltrated the United States government. So he was sharing a YouTube video on email with his son, Jim, his brother, daughter-in-law Hallie, as well as his sister and longtime political strategist Val. I just don't understand how he everyone around him is profiting off of this guy. Did you hear all of the people that I just listed? All of these people he's constantly setting up deals for. They're making lots of money, all because of his position and his power. So I want to couple that with, okay, so Joe Biden is saved as Pedo Peter on his phone, allegedly, right? We know about Ashley Biden's diary. We know about what she wrote about taking showers with her dad that she felt to be inappropriate. In hindsight, she said, "I remember having showers with my dad. Probably not appropriate. Was I molested? Probably. I can't remember specifics, but I do remember trauma." I'm just saying, it's a little weird. It's probably something you should know about the president if that's what the implication is.
Joe Biden is the most popular president in the history of America, 81 million votes. So he would never do anything wrong. He's never told a lie. He is literally the greatest man walking on this earth. So I'm not going to stand for this. We need to actually ignore this because we can't look at leaked documents. So Joe Biden, we love you. Thank you so much. The Blaze here, we support you 1,000%.
I do want to add to this though. So back in October 2020, Rudy Giuliani, who I realize he looks really crazy, right? Because he's going on and on about this laptop and about all of these things that he knows. And everyone's like, yeah, the guy's crazy. He's got hair dye running in his face. Sure. And you're like, what is wrong with this guy? but previous to then, he seemed to be a pretty credible source of information. According to, that's what I'm saying. According to most people, they wouldn't have called him just some crazy conspiracy theory guy like this one, right? Well. But back in October of 2020, Rudy Giuliani, who had all of the contents of the laptop from Hunter Biden, he said that there were text messages from Hunter where Hunter had said that Hallie Biden, who I know we need a flow chart for this, but Hallie is Beau's widow. Right. Yes. So Hallie, who then Hunter went and slept with after Beau died. So Hallie Biden, so weird, had accused him of having a sexually inappropriate relationship with an underage 14-year-old girl in the family. Let's revisit that interview with Rudy Giuliani. Watch.
Well, this is really a very, very sensitive one. There's a text message to his father in which he says the following, and he's discussing his sister-in-law, who for quite some time was his lover. And he says, she told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate. This would be with a unnamed 14-year-old girl. When she says that I FaceTime naked with the unnamed 14-year-old girl. Wow. And the reason I can't have her out to see me is because I'll walk around naked, smoking crack, talking tom girls on FaceTime. When she was pressed, she said that the unnamed 14-year-old girl never said anything like that, but the bottom line is that I created and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids.
I'm just saying I feel like we probably need to know if the president and or his son is a pedophile. I feel like we probably should know that.
Seems like a big deal.
Probably should look into it maybe a little bit. I mean, I'm saying if this was completely inaccurate, if I'm Hunter Biden, I'm filing a defamation lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani.
And he did not.
He didn't.
He did not. I mean, look, we all knew. I didn't necessarily believe the origin story immediately of this laptop. Like, come on, he left it at a repair shop. That can't possibly be true. It was true, and we now know that. It's now been confirmed by multiple places. But there was never, I don't think, a question that it was authentic. I mean, could it have been hacked? That was my first thought.
Well, there was from the media and from social media who took the New York Post Twitter account down.
Yeah, and the NPR saying it was a bunch of lies.
Right.
That's all been disproven now. But I mean, like the new batch from this phone. I went through too long of a thread of someone who was going through each individual text and voicemail, trying to understand what was on there without having to see the pictures myself. That was my goal.
That was smart.
And it does seem like there's a lot on there. I mean, like it's a really weird thing. Like, I was talking to one of my friends about it. Like, you might have a name for a nickname for one of your parents. You might like bust on them, right? You might call them something. You might have a funny joke that you have with them or one of your friends. Calling your dad a pedophile
not funny.
Is not cool. Like, now look, Hunter Biden's completely insane, and it's hard to keep anything in perspective of how he might act. But like, that is really weird to do unless you actually think it's true. I mean, calling your dad a pedophile, that's... I mean, I guess, when, Ashley has this issue, like, I don't know, maybe, but it's too dark. It's not comedy, right? Like, it seems like it's like a real thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is a classic case of reality is stranger than fiction. And not even Tom Clancy, who they use the name Peter Henderson from one of his novels, could write a fictional story like this. I mean, literally, you could give
believable.
I'm just saying, you could give a million Hollywood scriptwriters, write this script. They would say, nobody would believe this. Yeah. So that's where we're at. We're in the upside down world, the clown world, where Joe Biden will blame everything on Putin. There's mass inflation, mass immigration problem, massive drug problem. His son is part of it. They're not going to talk about that. They're just going to blame it on Putin. They're just lying to us right in our face. And I think this evidence proves the mainstream media does not have our back if they won't even cover this simple stuff like Hunter Biden smoking crack all day with prostitutes.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Omega XL. So if you are one of millions of Americans, you just live in constant pain. Maybe it's your knees, your neck, whatever the case may be. I was in a car accident a long time ago, but it messed up a bunch of the discs in my neck, and so I was just in pain all the time. It's amazing how it can affect your mood and your entire way of life. Don't live that way. Do what I did. You got to go to omegaxl.com. Get there. It is an essential fatty acid combination from the waters of New Zealand. So a bunch of you, I know Stu is like, he loves Big Pharma. Like, he loves Big Pharma.
Huge fan.
So a lot of people who love Big Pharma, they're like, it's natural? That's not going to work. No. It actually does, Stu.
Yeah, hey, I know about Omega XL.
No, it really does work, and you can get out of pain, and it will change your life. I'm telling you, if you can get out of pain. You got to go to omegaxl.com. If you go there, omegaxl.com/news, right now you can get a second bottle for free when you order. That is at omegaxl.com/news. The group Shutdown DC announced on Friday that organizers would pay anyone who could tip protesters off to the locations of the conservative Supreme Court justices who actually just really enjoy, like, not killing babies. Apparently, that's a no-no to Shutdown DC. They said DC service industry workers, if you see Kavanaugh, Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, Coney Barrett, or Roberts, DM us with the details. We'll Venmo you $50 for confirmed sighting and $200 if they're still there 30 minutes after your message. So this, of course, surprisingly enough, did happen to Brett Kavanaugh. He was sitting at, Morton's? He was sitting at D.C. Morton's Steakhouse, and protesters attempted to disrupt his dinner. Now, Pete Buttigieg was asked about this because his husband, who, as we know, they went through a lot whenever he gave birth, and he had to go out on maternity leave.
Chest feeding.
Yeah. It took a lot out of him physically, the toll it took on his body, giving birth to that baby that actually he didn't do because that's not possible. But he was asked about this whole issue because his husband, Chasten, actually tweeted and mocked Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh amid these pro-abortion protests. I'm going to go ahead and let you watch this.
Let's go to a red-hot issue here in Washington. Your husband tweeted after Justice Brett Kavanaugh left a Washington restaurant due to protesters. The tweet reads, "Sounds like he just wanted some privacy to make his own dining decisions." Is that appropriate, sir?
Look, when public officials go into public life, we should expect two things. One, you should always be free from violence, harassment, and intimidation. And two, you're never going to be free from criticism or peaceful protest, people exercising their First Amendment rights. Okay. And that's what happened in this case. Remember, the justice never even came into contact with these protesters, reportedly didn't see or hear them. And these protesters are upset because a right, an important right, that the majority of Americans support was taken away.
Be very careful, Petey. Be very, very careful. If that is the world you want, that is the world you're going to get.
Yeah.
Be very careful.
That is, and it's the only way to shut that down, right? The second that started happening to people on the left, they would be on television saying how terrible it was, and that might actually shut it down. I mean, I don't want that world, honestly. I don't want like that world. Alex, you'd like that
I love that world. I'm going to DC this week. I hope they better keep that same energy, Pete, because I'm coming to do a peaceful protest, and you're going to see prime time with a big sign saying you guys all stink. So keep that same energy when the protest comes for you.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, this is what's going to happen to them. Obviously, like people are going to go do that, and you know, look, of course you don't have to you don't have a right to avoid criticism. No one's saying you do. Of course, there is some level of decorum that we have in our society that we've all respected for a long time, and that I think has been generally good for civilization. If you don't want it, you don't have to have it. If you want to take that barrier away and make everybody who serves in public life constantly miserable, we can have that world if you'd like it. They seem to be demanding it. I mean, you have people who are being, threats are being made on the lives of this exact individual we're talking about. And he's still out here defending like this is appropriate. It's not appropriate at all. It shouldn't happen. But I mean, look, if this is the world they want, you're right, Sarah. This is the world they're going to get. And it's going to be, it's going to chase people out of public life. And, you know, eventually something bad is going to happen, right? I mean, we're not all as refined and under control as one Alex Stein.
Well, no, you're 100% right, and there is no conspiracy. These people actually want to encourage protesters. It's very similar to what happened with George Floyd. You saw Kamala Harris donating to bail funds. You saw the celebrities that are donating to get these people that were arrested protesting out of jail. So they want this to happen. Yet, you know, they have a January 6th commission that if they're on the other side protesting, they're going to lock you up in jail in solitary confinement. So it is a rigged system. Obviously, we don't live in a fair society, but if you just look at these people, they're all hypocrites, and Pete Buttigieg is one of the biggest hypocrites, and I just think it's obvious to the American people now that what they're trying to do is cause more division, and it's working, sadly.
Yeah, you know, I want to talk about that when it comes to this issue of abortion, because I think that's a great point. They're just trying to cause division. You heard the president himself, but a bunch of the left last week talk about this supposed case of there was a 10-year-old rape victim who was in Ohio, and she had to travel to Indiana to get an abortion because the Supreme Court had overturned Roe v. Wade, and how horrible this was to this poor 10-year-old who obviously would have been traumatized. I mean, just a horrible story to read about, right? Yeah. So there was PJ Media's Megan Fox not the actress Megan Fox. This is a different Megan Fox. This is a smart Megan Fox. She said the alleged story gave her a serious pause for a number of reasons. So she did a little bit of digging like an actual journalist should have been doing all along with, before spouting it all out as if it's just verifiably true. So she said a pregnant 10-year-old is evidence of a heinous crime against a child, but in every article, and there are so many, there is no mention of a criminal investigation, no police involvement, not even a town where this allegedly occurred. An unnamed alleged child abuse doctor called Dr. Caitlin Bernard to ask. So this is an abortionist in Indiana, by the way, was the person that they called to ask for help. But any doctor who knows of abuse would be required to also call law enforcement. There should be a criminal investigation going on involving Ohio DFS and the police. So, you know, it really is interesting when you think about it. You're like, wait, how is she the first person who's brought that up? It's been reported in so many different outlets, and it's absolutely true. It's a 10-year-old. How in the world would there not be a criminal investigation even mentioned? It's almost as if it might not be true.
Yeah, it definitely does not seem like it's true, and it was, of course, used to make it seem like, oh, these abortion laws are doing all these terrible things. That was the enemy of the story, not the rapist, right? Not the rapist. That wasn't the enemy of the story. The enemy of the story was the travel to Indiana, I guess. That's the bad guy here. When in reality, if there is a second bad guy outside of the supposed rapist, it would be the doctor in Indiana who performed the abortion and did not report it. That would be a crime. That would be a crime. So, yeah, it's fascinating to see how this played out, because it was way too convenient a story. I mean, 10-year-old, like, I don't remember the number, but I think it's under the age of 15, there were only 50 abortions in the entire state for over an entire year. So the idea that a 10-year-old immediately after this is so super suspicious. And the fact that nobody, including the president of the United States, bothered to even check on it is just so typical of the way these guys operate. When it's on their side, they don't care at all. They'll never do a fact check. They'll never call around. They don't care. The story was convenient for them. If it was the other way around, there would be exposés and long pieces in the Atlantic and all the things to overturn these. Even if it was mostly true, they'd find whatever detail was off and they'd take it apart and say it's mostly false. It's so typical of what to expect here. And thank God the good Megan Fox actually did that report.
Well, and it's funny because they say, well, it's not funny, but they say a 10-year-old, and the chances of a 10-year-old getting pregnant is probably very slim. I mean, I know this day and age with all the genetically modified food, I know girls are getting pregnant earlier. I still think it's, it's done to...
It's rare, certainly.
It's done to create sensationalism, for us to get upset. And then we find out the story is not accurate, so ooh, big surprise. But this is the problem with me, is they want to say, oh, well, we have to have abortion in the instance of rape or incest. That is so rare. That is so rarely the cause of a pregnancy. And even if you look at the statistics, I think it's like 95%, I believe, of abortions are done selectively because they don't want to have the baby, not because of rape or incest. And I think it's obviously less than 5%. So this is how they control the narrative. They create, outrage with false, fake news. So
but by the way, really quickly, Snopes can't even confirm this story because the doctor won't return Snopes phone calls, right? So I mean, I just wanted to, just wanted to throw that in there. But you bring up a great point, and Stu, I'm sure that you know probably the actual statistics because you're the stats guy. But even if you gave them that tiny rape and incest, even if you said it doesn't make sense, right? Because if it's a life, it's a life. But even if you gave them that, they still wouldn't take it. Because that's not what it's about.
Of course not. That's not what it's about. It's just their little point, which, and look, there's a lot of, even on the conservative side, most of these states that are banning abortion have cutouts for that.
Right.
And, that's a whole other situation. But you also have to kind of stop and say, even if this story were true, isn't it dumb? The story there would be that a 10-year-old was raped. The story would not be she had to travel for 50 minutes to get to her abortion. That's not she's not going to look back at this in 20 years and go, you know what? Gosh, the worst part about that was the drive. The drive was really terrible. It's a horrific story that should have been reported completely differently, but they didn't care. They didn't care if it was true, and they didn't care if they focused on the right thing.
And if this was so rampant, they would have real examples to use of this instance.
All right, so we got to take another quick break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, My Patriot Supply. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but all across America, farmers are warning about fertilizer shortages caused by supply chain breakdown. You know what this means? It means harvest will be a lot smaller. Food will be in short supply for the rest of the year. You've already heard the president, the wonderful, esteemed president, Joe Biden, talking about how there are going to be food shortages. There will be food shortages here in America. You got to get My Patriot Supply. They are the nation's largest preparedness company. They've got more than 55,000 4-star and 5-star reviews, and they offer ready-hour food kits. They're delicious. They provide over 2,000 calories a day for sustainable energy, and it's going to stay fresh for up to 25 years. So it's going to be there whenever you need it. You're going to save $150 on each 3-month kit. It's going to ship fast and free. Unmarked boxes so that your neighbors don't come over in the event that you need it. They don't come over and expect to share your emergency food supply. You got to go to preparewithnewsmatters.com. That is preparewithnewsmatters.com. A lot of Twitter users are going to be pretty sad about this one. July 8th, Elon Musk filed an amendment to a Schedule 13D with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission with the intention of terminating his April deal to purchase Twitter. Twitter's board, actually. This is very, very fascinating to see like the evolution of everyone's feelings about it. Because remember, they were pissed and they did not want to let him buy the company. And but then finally, you know, it turned out that they're like, fine, we have to. And now that he has decided to try to pull out, now they plan to pursue legal action in an effort to close the transaction. Lawyers for Elon Musk stated that the billionaire was terminating the merger agreement because of his belief that Twitter is, quote, in material breach of multiple provisions, end quote, of the agreement. And Twitter has not provided information that he requested earlier regarding spam and fake accounts. Obviously, I know that the speculation was Twitter was like, yes, like probably around 5%. And it turns out that it's probably a lot more than that as bot and spam accounts. We'll see what happens. Obviously, none of us are lawyers here, but I'm sad. I'm sad. I always felt like I was like, there's no way this goes through. Once he started seeing all of the high percentage of bots, his attitude seemed to change. But then he had that meeting with them. He had like a little Zoom call with them, all the Twitter employees. So I thought, all right, maybe he's going to do it, but no.
Well, if you look at Joe Biden, I mean, they figured out half of his followers are all bots. They're fake. So we know it has a serious problem. And for me, looking at, I'm not some stock market guy, but Elon Musk's offer was at $54. Now it's at $34. It's dropped $20. So, I mean, for him to still buy it, that it's this low, he's probably having a little buyer's remorse because he could have got it a lot cheaper.
Wouldn't it be amazing if he gets away with this and like the end result is that he just made their company way less valuable? I would love that so much.
Well, it strikes me as a negotiation tactic, right? Like, I mean, he probably, as you point out, he's over. I mean, now a year ago it was in the 70s, so and then it went down to his down into the 30s. Then he started talking about it. Then it went up when he was going to buy it, got up to around 50. Now it's back down to 34. He should be probably paying less than $54.20. So he goes to them and he says, "Hey, you have too many bots." They go back and forth and they settle it. It's hard to believe. I do think he wants this, right? I could be wrong on this, but it feels like he does actually want to do this. I think he really believes it's important. I think he really does believe in the free speech stuff that he talks about. I also believe he's a much better businessman than anybody at Twitter and actually can make the site better. They can have good features. It's not just about the free speech. I think he could actually make a lot of money off of the site that for some reason they have not been able to do themselves. You think about this, there has probably never been a product in the history of all-time human history that has received more free advertising than Twitter. Every single show talks about this person tweeted this person tweeted this. People are talking about it all the time, and yet it's like the 8th most profitable social network somehow. Like, it just has been a constant failure. They have not been able to monetize it. I think he would make the site more enjoyable, better, and I think he does want it. There's a bunch of theories out there. There's a good conspiracy theory, Alex, on this, where the idea is...
Alex is like, I'm listening.
Where the idea was he wanted to pull out a bunch of money out of Tesla, and so he went through with this idea of selling... Because if he just goes and I'm going to sell $8 billion of Tesla, the Tesla stock's going to tank. So instead, I'm selling this to buy Twitter. Then he pulls out of the Twitter thing. He's got the money out, and he didn't crash the Tesla stock. I mean, that was, it's a little bit of a conspiracy.
Well, Tesla
theory.
is being investigated for their self-driving software right now. They think there's been 27 crashes,
really?
Unexplained. Yeah, so they are under investigation for their self-driving system.
So who knows? Maybe there's something to it. I mean, it's always fun when they come true. So anyway, I don't know. It's possible. I think his worst case scenario seems to be he'd have to pay $1 billion if he had to pull out of it, because there's a $1 billion clause in there. It's hard to believe that Elon Musk is going to pay $1 billion for nothing.
For nothing.
So, my guess is this is a tactic. They're going to wind up settling maybe a little bit less. Maybe he gets it for $50 or 48 or something like that, and they call it a day. Because unless you believe he really doesn't want it, maybe he's just torturing them, maybe he's trolling them. But this is an expensive troll. A lot of work has gone into this. I feel like he still wants it, and this is just a way to pull the price down.
I hope that he does. I really do. I hope that he does.
Well,
be better for the
we got to make this point, though. Twitter is the only social media that something can truly go viral. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, something can get a lot of clicks. But somebody with no followers can leak something on Twitter, and it can get millions and millions of hits. So it's really the true public square that all these other social medias want to be, these other social media companies want to be. So I think Elon Musk knows that, and he could make it very valuable. So I think you're right. I think this is a negotiation tactic, and I hope he does buy it. I hope he does get it. Yeah.
I mean, it's always been a great deal for Twitter, too. I mean, look, they were never going to put the value on this company to get to the stock price anyway, unless there was just a generalized market run-up. So, I mean, why not? They should do this. They should let someone else take it over. And it's to your point, like, the reason why I think it's the public square is because that's where all the media people hang out. You know, they're not, I mean, I'm sure they have Instagram accounts. They probably pop over there. But when they're talking about the news and making the news, they're there reading your tweets. They see when you go viral. They look at those and try to follow up, and it spreads out of there so easily. Where on Instagram and Facebook, even though they have far more people using it, it doesn't have that same effect.
Well, I know that personally because that's how I went viral. Literally, if it wasn't for Twitter, I wouldn't be here sitting here today. So I love Twitter.
I want to get back to something just completely off topic. Would you guys do a self-driving car? I can't do it. Like, I need to know that I'm the one who is in control of driving.
Well, yeah, in case there's an apocalypse, you want to have gas. You want to have a gas or diesel car. And they just had the new F-150 that's on a battery, could only tow a boat 80 miles.
But I mean, would you just sit back and like just let a car drive for you while you're riding in it? I just can't.
It would be hard. I do think eventually you might get used to it. I mean, if you think about being on a plane, right, you're letting, that's what's happening there.
Yeah, but
right?
I do know that at least, I don't know. That's true. I don't know. For some reason, I know that obviously there's human error, but for some reason, like I trust a human more than a computer.
It's going to take time. I think like over time, my guess is if this is really good, I mean, eventually they'll get this technology down, but it might take a while. And I think early on, people are going to be very skeptical of it. Over time, I think you will probably see these crash numbers come down, and then people will start to slowly believe it. Like our kids, who are not driving age yet, will probably, I mean, there's a good chance they may never drive a car.
That's so weird.
I just bought a freaking car with a manual transmission. So, like, I'm totally on the other side. I like driving.
Well,
I like it.
And Stu, this is actually a big point. A lot of 16 and 17-year-olds, they're not getting their license. When I got a hardship license at 15. My dad went and lied and said I had to drive him. He was sick, and I might have to drive him to the hospital. So I can get a license when I was 15. I wanted to drive so bad.
I'm sure your dad loves that you just admitted that.
No, we don't care. It's it's been 20 years, basically. So what I'm saying is this day and age, I don't think kids are as motivated to get their license. So maybe they'll love it. Oh, I can just get in my car and tweet all day while it drives for me.
That's true. That's true.
Scary.
That's really and sad.
But
too.
Probably better than a teenager driving.
Maybe.
Okay, all right. I take back. Self-driving car for my teens only, but not for me. All right, we've got more to come. First, I want to thank our sponsor, this segment, Grove Collaborative. So, look, it is time to become, more sustainable, because you want to do what's sustainable, but more importantly, you have got to start using Grove for your household products. They've got a bunch of green products, so you can feel comfortable using it around your family, your dogs. You guys know I have a zoo you have a zoo.
Oh, yeah. I have a zoo.
You have a zoo. We all have zoos in our house. Yeah, you can see like 5 million cats.
Yeah, don't talk about it, please.
But you want to know when you're using a cleaning product or whatever that it's safe for your cats, because we've got cats, we've got babies running around, we've got all those creatures that we want to keep safe. Grove is the place that you can go to do it. They've got a bunch of stuff that you can find at Whole Foods, but for way less cost, which is why I love shopping at Grove for all of my stuff. They've got Mrs. Meyer's. They have got it all. So you've got to go check it out. Go to grove.com/news. You'll get a free gift set worth up to $50 with your first order. Shipping is fast and free. You got to go there. It is grove.com/news. A new poll, we alluded to this earlier in the program, a new poll found that 64% of Democrat voters want someone else to run in the 2024 presidential campaign. Biden's approval rating is down to a third of all Americans. This is according to the latest, it's New York Times Siena College poll. Just 26% of Democrat voters said that the party should renominate Biden. Things are not going well. Alex mentioned earlier on in the program, Kamala, she was asked, we don't have time to play the clip, but she was asked about Biden running in 2024, and she just completely ignored she avoided answering the question and started talking about all of the good things that they're doing, and all the time she's gone to Europe, because that's what Kamala does. She just talks about things that nobody cares about. She just makes up words. She just literally, as she's speaking.
We got great brand new Veep Thoughts tonight. VeepThoughts.com. Check all of Kamala Harris's incomprehensible speech. We've got something like 20 or 25 of them now up there. They're all just idiotic. Yeah, but this is an incomprehensibly bad number for Joe Biden. I mean, 64% don't want him to run. That's not what you normally get out of your own party. The approval rating in this poll is 33%. He now has the lowest approval rating average of any president at this point in his presidency, going back as far as they've measured these polls.
13% of those surveyed think the nation was on the right track.
Yeah.
13%.
And that's actually a high number compared to one came out last week. It was 8. Yeah. 8 versus 8, 88% wrong track, 8% right track. This is a catastrophe, and you know, they don't know what to do. You saw a couple stories come out this weekend where they were saying, hey, you know, we noticed Joe Biden's really old. You guys notice that? He's really old. Yeah. This is a problem. And now this is kind of one of the focuses we have on Stu Does America tonight. Stu does the Democratic mutiny, because it's beginning. They're starting to go now. They're starting to see this is off track. We are screwed. We're going to lose all of our power. They're starting to leak to the media. They're starting to undercut him. They're starting to leak these little narratives, and those things start to build on each other. They start snowballing. When the New York Times gets the okay to start bashing Joe Biden, that's really bad for Joe Biden. And I think, honestly, at the end of the day, he's got this midterm coming up. If he can't turn it around, which I don't see there's any sign that he can by then, and this is the catastrophe that it looks like it's going to be, he's in real trouble as a nominee. They may find a way for him to spend more time with his family coming up soon.
He needs to spend more time with Hunter. And I think your tweet earlier said it best. I mean, the 64% that disapprove of him. What about the 36% that approve of him?
Like, what are they? I'm just concerned that they are not disapproving.
They've all smoked crack with Hunter Biden. That's why they're making that decision. Because seriously, you just look at the inflation, you look at the crime wave, you look at all the problems our country is facing. If anybody can actually say, oh, they still support Joe Biden at this point, they're high on crack.
It was really funny. I wish that I could give credit to this guy. I forget his name. I think it's Shane something on Instagram, who's been going around doing man on the street videos.
Shane Ritchie. He's very funny. Yes.
So thank you. I'm glad. So he went around. I think he's in LA. Do you know?
Well, he's in California for a lot of them, but I've seen him all over. I think he works for one of these conservative kind of young news outlets. Not Turning Point, but it's called like America First or something like that.
Well, he's going around interviewing people. A lot of them actually are minorities, right? So I just watched a video of him interviewing there were some black guys, and he's asking them, you know, how Joe Biden's doing and stuff, and they're just like, we don't like it.
Can't ride a bike.
Yeah, they're like, bread is $5. He can't ride a bike. He's falling. I'm gonna have to go ride a horse next time I want to go see my girlfriend. They didn't put it quite that way, but I mean, it's like all over. Nobody is happy with the way things are going. But is Gavin Newsom going to do the trick?
I mean, Gavin Newsom is absolutely terrible. If that's the best they have, they're in real trouble. Because he's also just a douche. He's not a likable guy. He's very pompous and weird and stilted, and I don't think he's going to connect with the American people. But you know, they're going to be looking for something else. You know, they're going to be looking for something else. I will say, you know, the bad news in this poll, if you want to find bad news in this poll, this same group of people that approved of Joe Biden at 33%. Those same people, when asked of a hypothetical matchup between Trump and Biden, Biden still won by 3.
Oh my gosh!
So like this is, you know, look, a lot of people love Donald Trump. There's a lot of the stuff that he did that I, you know, was really appreciative of. He did a lot of really good things. I mean, the fact that Roe versus Wade is not here, in no small part due to Donald Trump. But you know, there is just, we've all noticed, we've all seen it in the media. They treated him very unfairly, and they've created a world in which a lot of people in this country just can't stand him on sight. Yeah. Right? Yeah, and it's going to be tough for him to beat anybody.
TDS is real quick.
Okay, I just want to make this quick point, though. So for the people that, you know, the contrarian on the panel, if you guys all say Joe Biden's doing a bad job, but for the liberal world order, he's doing an incredible job.
Great job, Joe. We got to take a break. We'll be back.
That's scary. I mean, if that's real, you know, I just feel like people just react to Trump.
Yes. Well, before we go, I want to make sure everyone is enlightened about the fatness spectrum, apparently. Let's watch a Libs of TikTok video.
I have thin privilege. What? But I'm so fat. I'm like a size 20, 22. How can I possibly have thin privilege? Because there are people who are fatter than me. When I go on a plane, I might need a seatbelt extender. I might be uncomfortable. I may not feel good. People may say things to me. But I don't need to buy a second seat or risk getting kicked off the plane. Almost all of us have some thin privilege. It's a spectrum and it goes by degrees.
Oh my God.
God, this is such a dumb world.
Oh
I
my
wish
God.
I had thin privilege. I need to get on a diet, but at least I don't have to use a seatbelt extender, so I guess maybe I have a little bit.
I mean, like, yeah, sure. I guess like the fattest person in the world has thin privilege until they die of a cardiac event.
Yeah, it's just, we're in the clown world, obviously.
This is really sad, really sad. Well, thank you, Libs of TikTok, for enlightening us. Make sure to check out Stu Does America. Go back and watch the Power Hour if you didn't catch it.
Yes.
And check out Alex's interview with
On Tucker Carlson tonight.
That's really, really exciting.
I'm excited.
I can't wait. I'm going to be watching. All right, thanks, you guys. And we will see you tomorrow.